We've designed and built countless homes together, apartment buildings, mega mansions. He's the Jason Statham of the architectural industry. Not only is he handsome, he's without question one of the most experienced architects in property development in and around London and the Southwest.
Jason Statham, that's a compliment.
I thought you were saying he's going around beating people up.
I've heard that one before. It's sort of Jason Statham for the visually impaired.
Iconic now is quite often known as the luxury super prime mansion company. You've achieved that name in the industry.
Or if you talk to my children, iconic is iconic because we do windows and we do makeup and we do
Guys, I'm extremely excited to have one of my all-time favourite architects on the episode today. We've known each other for over 20 years. We've designed and built countless homes together, apartment buildings, mega mansions. He's the Jason Statham of the architectural industry. Not only is he handsome, he's without question one of the most experienced architects in property development in and around London and the Southwest. You may no doubt have heard of his company, Iconic. Lots of our viewers will have seen lots and lots of Andrew's homes online. A huge blend of properties from smaller houses all the way up to the mega mansions that you see on the world's finest estates such as Wentworth and St George's Hill. This is the guy behind all of it. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, so we are extremely grateful that he's joining us today. I'm absolutely pumped to have Andrew on. So's Mike. And just like to say welcome to you, Andrew.
Thank you. Jason Statham, that's a compliment.
I thought you were saying he's going around beating people up.
I've heard that one before. It's sort of Jason Statham for the visually impaired.
We've known each other a really long time.
I think I had a fringe when I first
You had hair, yeah. I had less. And we've designed together countless homes. And you've always been my go-to guy. I've always been incredibly loyal to you. You know what you're talking about. But before we kick off and go into the stuff that you and me have done together, of which we could talk for ages, tell us how it all began for you.
Probably a maths lesson. It was one of those things. I could always draw. I could always draw 3D, and you go through any of my school books when I was younger, much to my mother's despair, you wouldn't find the work that should be in there. You'd find sketches of cars, buildings, houses, everything 3D I used to sketch in the back. And that was what I could do. And as I developed over time, you have your artistic side, you have your school side, which I absolutely hated school. And I think a lot of that stems to, as I got older, you have children. I discovered I was quite dyslexic. So that explains why I could draw, but I was shocking at maths. And what it came out of it is, if you give me a maths equation, x equals y plus or minus, and I'm going, why? Why do I need to work out y? But if you'd drawn it as a building, you'd put the sides on, you'd put the roof on, you put the equation on the building, x equals number of tiles, volume. My brain went, oh, I get it, I understand how to do it. And from that, it's sort of, sorry, I'm saying sort of a Biden moment then of jumping subjects. But very much, I knew what I wanted to be. It's all I ever, from the age of 8, I wanted to be an architect. And so that's what I focus with. To all those career advisors out there who said I wasn't clever enough and I should perhaps be a council gardener. That's what I was advised. I was told,
really?
That's all you're good enough, because they sort of poo-poo your dreams sort of thing. So I kept going. I had ups and downs, failures with exams, things like that. And then I had a work experience with Hampshire County Architects
Okay.
when I was about 14 for a guy called Colin Stanfield Smith, who was like a gold-winning school designer. And I didn't want to design schools, but I liked how he did stuff. And it was a case of, I came away going, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I like those pens and rulers and rubbers, and yeah, I want some of those.
Yeah.
So you do your GCSEs. They don't come out as good as they should be. First year, by the way, when they were hard. Then you do your A-levels. You get choose your universities. And this is where it comes out for me with your university choice. You can go to the top ones, you can go to the middle ones, you can go to the bottom ones. But university courses aren't about what university, it's about what course it is and how you are with that course. So I went to Brighton, which was very practical, designing, fun. It was quite good because there's a lot less reading, so it's more doing.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I came out, got my degree, and then I started working doing shopping centres, which...
Designing shopping centres?
Yeah.
Right.
Basingstoke Shopping Centre, because that was my local shopping centre.
Okay.
And I did that for about 18 months, and then I completely and utterly lost the will to live because it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was part of a big team, and I couldn't get hands-on. It was very much, you will do this, you will do that. You better not do that because you're going to cost us money because you know nothing because you're just full of theories.
Yeah.
And I got to a stage where I thought, I can't do this anymore. This is so boring. And I got offered a job. Well, I'll go back a bit. I applied to a load of recruitment firms, and I was offered an interview with a company near Guildford, actually, who was an architectural practice just doing developer housing.
Okay.
And they showed me this scheme they were working on, which was 40 flats in Weybridge Town Centre.
Okay.
And they said, what do you think of this? And I went, that's rubbish. I could do better. And they went, go on then. And they gave me the drawings and said, come back on Friday with a concept of what you want to do. I got the job.
Brilliant.
And they're all based on my mum and dad's house.
Yeah.
Victorian, and that style has appeared many times in Cobham and Weybridge.
How old were you at that point?
I would have been 2000. So as you know, I'm not very good at maths. It's late 20s.
Okay.
And I got the job, and we worked for predominantly Bewley Homes.
Yeah.
And we were doing loads and loads of just multi-house developments, but they weren't the tiny stuff. They were your 3 and 4 bedroom executive style housing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I realised I was spatially very good at things like that. I could design them, I could make them work, and I just went for it. And we did so many developments for Bewley Homes, won awards. It was absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
And that made me really think, well, this is what I want to do. They then offered me an associateship, actually, within about a year of being there, but I didn't go with it because there were too many silent directors in the company. And when you're in a practice like that, you're just making the silent directors lots of money.
Yeah.
And I then got headhunted by a developer. So I then went to work for a developer in Guildford, doing luxury houses and multiple units. And I was there for about another 18 months. And then I left there because I couldn't be bothered with the politics of being within a developer. It's too much backstabbing and things like that.
Sure.
So I then went on to another company. I then went on to set up another big architectural practice where I was with for 7 years. And that was really the break when we started doing the big luxury houses in Surrey.
Yeah.
And then I started Iconic in 2010. And now we are 2025, and I've got no idea where the last 15 years have vanished.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I look back at my job log from when I started, and this month I've just hit job number 700.
Wow.
So I've done 700 jobs in the last 15 years.
Amazing.
Wow.
And I'd hate to think of the number of detached luxury houses I've done, flats, refurbishments,
Yeah.
and the end value of all of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things, I keep busy because I like what I do.
Yeah.
As you said at the beginning, I don't come out to play much.
No.
I very much enjoy what I do. I design, I really get into it.
Yeah.
I'm rubbish at golf, so don't invite me on golf days. I'd rather go home in the evenings and sort of be with the family and chill out and do what lots of sort of 52-year-old old farts do, really. So it's, for me, I've still got the passion in what I do. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's that sort of, somebody says, here's a site, what can we do with it?
Yeah.
And it's always that sort of, well, there's two ways of looking at it. You've got the, oh my God, you've bought this already?
Yeah.
Nightmare. Did you, you didn't see the tree in the neighbour's garden, did you? You know, the TPO with the big trunk that's ruined half your site.
Yes.
But most of my clients will come to me early doors, a bit like you, and it's like, what can we put on this site? So I will then do my due diligence, planning portal, Google Earth, looking at trees, neighbours. Most important is your 45 degrees blaze off windows from other neighbours. And then you can say to your client, you wanted 7,000 square foot. That's bad news for you. It's 4,500 square foot on a good day. And at that point you go, thank you very much, we've binned that site. Or I'll say, look, I've looked at it from another angle. This is a really long plot. Would you consider doing 4,500 square foot at the front? I know we've got the tree at the side. Well, why don't we put a road down the side and see if we can squeeze a bungalow or something at the back, because that's your bonus square footage. And that's what we do.
You've led really nicely. Makes my job easier for me. You've led really nicely into the next thing I was going to chat about, which is when I first started out in property development, you were one of the first people I spoke to. I knew that everybody was using you back then. Anybody with any pedigree was employing you to design their developments for them, and we're going back over 15 years now. I mean, I can't count how many houses or how many homes you and me have designed together that I've then built out and sold, and the client builds stuff as well. But you've been around a long time, and you're actually part of our Black Book. And the reason we created our Black Book of Contacts was people that know what they're talking about, that have been around a long time, going back to what you just mentioned with regards to identifying that there's a tree that might be that might have constraints on a site, and all the problems that can affect.
It's the big picture of every site. Is you can't guarantee you'll get a job from every site someone brings in. But because the way we do feasibilities, it's a case of you tell the client what you can or you can't achieve. But in the long term, there will always be a job that comes in from it, because you're better off being honest and saying it doesn't work. That's a dog of a site, rather than like some architects is, we can fit a house on that, draw down fees,
with no chance of ever getting the planning.
I think what it is, from what I do now, from previous practices I've been in, it's about getting your planning permission. There's no point designing lots of houses that you can't build because you didn't get planning or weren't buildable because of the cost. So, for example, I went to see a client on Monday, and the first question is, where's the plot? Oh, it's where you are now. So you go for a little wander around the garden, you look at everything, you look at the current house, and then you have to go through what the current process is of what do you want to do with the house? Are you looking to refurb it? Are you looking to flatten it and start from fresh? And this is we want a new build. So you start with, okay, it's the payment. What's your budget? They go, and my budget is 1.2 million. Then you come back, no. What is your true budget? There's the budget you don't really want to tell me. And then, because I said, there's no point you going, I want a 6,000 square foot house, but our budget's 1.2 million. Because my response to that will be, you can't do it.
Unless you do it yourself.
And you'll come back to me going, but I spoke to Dave down the pub.
And Dave said you could build for 150 quid a square foot.
And you're at that situation with clients, whether they will either listen to you and absorb what you're saying, and they hear the true costs because they're numbers people.
Yes.
Or on day one, they are rigid that they want their budget at that, and they're having that square
of course.
footage. And then you hear the horror stories 2 years later,
Of course.
where they've got an unfinished house because the builder spent their 1.2 million.
Yes,
and pissed
and
off.
they needed the extra 500,000 spent.
Yeah.
But that's why TV shows like Grand Designs do so well. There's fantastic designs from the architects, but in reality, that project can't be delivered for the budget that people had in mind.
That's what I have a problem with, though.
Yeah.
I think Grand Designs is car crash TV because they're really untruthful. What Mr. forgotten his name, the presenter of it, Kevin McLeod. That was it. But if I was Kevin McLeod, I'd have changed my glasses twice during this interview.
I knew it was going to be fun having you on.
But no, you watch stuff and they go, well, yeah, we've got £250,000 for this new build.
Yes.
He just needs to go on day one. You can't do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you a knob job? There's no way you can do it for that.
Yeah.
And then the program unfolds, and then at the end of it, they go, "Oh, it came in at 1.8 million."
Yeah.
We had friends; they had £1 million in their back pocket, and they just lent it to us.
Yeah.
I have lost one of my children who's been sold to scientific research, but we've got the house we wanted.
But they wouldn't have a TV show
And
without
you-
it, would they?
but, but they need, they do need to have a bit more reality on that.
Yeah.
Because I've done the self-build home show twice at Farnborough, and I did once at Sandown. And that is car crash questions.
Yes.
You've got your stand, you've got your pretty houses.
Yes.
And I would say 90% of the questions that I had weren't, oh, can you design me a house? It was, well, we've already got another architect on board and it's gone terribly wrong. We got planning, but we can't afford to build it.
Yes.
And you're sort of going, oh, God, this again.
Yeah.
And so you want me to do the mop-up. Oh, could you? But can you do it for a reduced fee? No.
Yeah.
Just do your due diligence.
Well, you've given me a great deal of help over the years because I started off from scratch, as you know, many, many years ago. Wanted to be a property developer, didn't know anything about design, and I relied on you to help me, which you have done. And it's things like, arched windows, arched doors that you like, that you think look really attractive, but when you're building speculatively, these are the expensive items. If you're going with arched windows and arched front doors, you then need arched stonework, and the cost starts mounting up. But where you've set yourself apart is, you'll say to me, Simon, or you used to say to me, Simon, that's all very well, but that's an expensive detail. And if you start going with arched stone and arched windows and arched doors, you're going to blow your budget really, really quickly.
There's two ways on that one, because you've also got to get a punter through the front door. And a lot of mistakes some of the developers I worked for in the early days is they just rip all the details off. They'd go for cheap bricks, cheap tiles.
Yes.
You wouldn't walk into a Bentley dealer and go, I love your car, can I have it in Hammerite?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and it is
That's part of it.
the cost of a quality brick and a cheap brick over the whole project is a few £1,000s.
Yes.
And that is the first thing you see when you pull up on the drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the number of houses I've turned up and I've gone, oh my God, what's happened?
Yes.
It looks like Timmy age 7's coloured it in with an orange fibre tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at your concept, you look at your CGI, and then you look at the reality, and you go, that won't be going on Instagram.
No.
It's like, it's concept to, it's almost from concept to, we won't bother with that bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, my mentor in life taught me a word, or used a word, that featured regularly in our mentoring sessions, which is a horrible word, as he called it, and it is a horrible word. It's the word adequate. And when you're designing homes for a developer, as you know, speculatively, you need to work to a budget, and it's all about the word adequate in as much as you can't blow your budget, you're working to fix budgets, and you need to be able to include attractive design details that are adequate to achieve the sales price that you want. It's a horrible word, but it's the reality of the business.
Can't remember his name, because it's many years ago. There was a director at Bewley Homes, and he had this saying, and it was, you don't build throwaway square footage.
Yes.
When you are doing your developer multi-unit houses, if you're going to build a 950 square foot 3-bed house, you don't build 1,000 or 1,100 thinking you're going to it's a bit bigger, we'd sell it.
Yeah.
Reality is at 1100 at 950, you're still going to get the same resale on it.
I agree.
But it's just
And
question
actually, what you've done is you've thrown away £150 times, in those days, £150 a square foot.
Yeah.
That's come off your profit margin.
Correct.
So you get a lot of this stuff, especially in the luxury top end, where you're going 9,000. It's got to be 9,000 square foot.
Yes.
And you have to sort of look at the balance going, okay, at 9,000 square foot, what have you got in that house compared to a 7,500 square foot house? And often it's maybe one room more.
Yes.
It's only when you jump up, say, to 11,000 square foot, you've got that extra garage, you've got the indoor pool complex. And then you can justifiably say it is worth a lot more because you've got that.
Yes.
And it's a sort of quite, it's not it's modular in terms of the square footage, because I sort of say you start at a 5,500 square foot house, which in the Surrey area will have a 1 to 1.5 garage. It will have a smaller hallway, but it will still, as you walk in, will have a study. It will have a dining room downstairs, toilet, cloaks. You move to the back, you've then got your living room, you've got your day room, you've got your breakfast, dining, kitchen.
So it ticks the box of what they expect of that side.
You then go, okay, the next jump up is I've got a 7,500 square foot house. It's exactly the same as that, but you've gained a double garage.
Yes.
You've got a lot more wasted space in your grand hall.
Yes.
And then you've gained a family room at the back.
Yes.
So that's where you go from a 5,500 square foot to a 7, and probably above the garage, we've now got either the master bathroom, bedroom appearing, or a
annex.
some sort of annex, or Airbnb.
But I think people get, and it's only something that comes with experience, and I think you'll agree with this, that people get far too hung up on square footage. I learnt it the hard way. You know, when I first started out building big houses, and then obviously I got into the big prime and super prime stuff with you. But people get too hung up on square footage, and it's people attach value to square footage quite often more than they need to.
Because as far as quality, not quantity.
It's quality, not quantity. But it's there's so many elements. We discussed this on the show, that it's the orientation of the plot. It's where the plot is on the road. You don't need to necessarily max out and get the biggest house possible, because all you're doing is getting bigger hallways, bigger studies, bigger living rooms.
That's always the classic one, is you walk into one of these houses you designed, and I'm quite blunt with clients. If I think they're making a mistake, I tell them. But the thing is, I have to professionally, because what you don't want is afterwards, oh, you didn't tell us this. But you often get it, you go, great hallway, but why are your rooms so crap?
Yes.
You've got a great hallway though.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's that first impression, it's the wowing of your friends. Look at our stairs, look at our hall.
Yes.
But actually, if you look at it in reality, you don't spend a huge amount of time in your hall.
I agree.
So scale the hallway in and have the rooms that you are going to live in.
Yes. As the wow.
And that's where I've seen a shift in the market. Probably in the last 6 months, actually, where I've had a lot of clients who had their 12,000 square foot houses, and they were like, excellent, I've got the pool, I've got the cinema, I've got this, I've got that. And then they go, I didn't see my children. They were a mile down that way.
That wing.
Oh, the swimming pool, it looks great. Have you been in it? No. I had one client who lived in a house for 10 years, and he never went in the pool once. And it was like, oh, you enjoyed that house, didn't you?
And then the management costs of living in something of that size.
Your running costs.
It's kind of gone from, like you said, a 12,500 down to the 9 to 10,000 kind of maximum.
Mine are jumping down bigger than that.
Really?
They're jumping from 12 to 5.5, 6, because they've lost the pool. They've lost the cinema room. Actually, the children have gone, so it's sort of like downsizing. And the word that comes into it, it's gone from being a hotel, which some of these big houses are, because you go on holiday to a hotel and you thoroughly enjoy it and it's great, but you don't live in a hotel all year round. Unless you're Michael Jackson, or was. But you want to live in a house. You want to come home. You want to chuck your stuff down. There are some uber modern stuff we've done. You just add a child to the house and it looks untidy. You know, that handprints and all that glass and mirrored furniture. But no, people want a home in a way that it's not like your little cottage like that one you had on the holiday that Kate Winslet lived in, but it's usable spaces. And we're watching rooms shrink and rooms enlarge. So the thing that everybody wants now is this boot room, utility room, fat frying kitchen. It's so that when the children come home from school, you go, "Oi, Timmy, put your bag in that room. Put that in the washing machine. Where's my bag? Where you left it, it's there." None of this scattered through the house as they head towards their bedroom.
Practical and livable, isn't it?
And the other thing I've learned, this is a tangent jumping, was how you do children's bedrooms.
Okay.
Go back years, it's like, we must have a bed, we must have a desk, we must have that. And what things have come out of COVID is that you don't want a desk in your bedroom. You should keep the bedrooms as a safe space, as in a place you go to relax. If you have your bedroom as a place where go upstairs and do some studying or do your homework, you suddenly create this sort of negative space. So a lot of the houses that I'm doing now, we're creating study nooks, a space that mum can make sure they're all doing their homework. And they can shut the doors and all their mess has gone, and it's part of the kitchen. But then when the children have gone, because everyone's not using the big partner desks, they're using their laptops. Mum and dad are just using that as their sort of day-to-day study space when they work at home. And it's amazing how this evolves. And it is, flipping back to the boot room, you shouldn't get excited by things like that. But the level of detail we have to put into these rooms with the benches and the coat hooks and the lockers, and then where do we have our washing machines? This does sound quite 52 years old and talking about white appliances. But it's that, do I have my washing machine downstairs or do I have a washing machine upstairs? Because do I need to bring all my wash down? But the balance is do you iron? Do you hang it on a rack? It's everyone's different. Do I actually do my own washing? It's
we've said quite a few times, haven't we? It's like yourself, the really good architects actually think about the usability and people living in the house. The amount of times you can get a plan, especially from us, I've seen them, and it's big cavernous rooms. Just think, okay, well, if I was living here, I definitely wouldn't have that there, and I wouldn't have it here.
It's room proportions. I want a 6x6 lounge. Why? Because I want one. You have to think, what furniture do you have? So 6x6 is actually a perfect size lounge because it's square, which means you can have here's one I prepared earlier. You can have a room like that.
That's what I love about it.
So you can do your L-shaped sofa. You can have your coffee table. If your garden is facing that way, you can then have the views where you've got your slidey doors. You can then have a screen there, fireplace, TV above. It means you can look that way and look that way. But if you've got your 6 meters, you can walk around the back of your sofa. So your room fills, you can have artwork, you can have that. If you want your TV, you can have your 85-inch plasma on the wall. It's not plasma anymore, is it? It's LED. But it's thinking how you get into these rooms, the spaces, and the number of houses that I go to, you go, so where's the sun? I don't know. I bought a plot. So, okay. You've got a southwesterly facing front.
Which means you've got a dark garden.
So you're going to have a garden room down the bottom of the garden with a fire pit looking back at the house in order to get your sunshine. So if you're designing, you then have to do a back to front kitchen so that you can bring the sunshine as it comes up in the morning at the back. As it comes around, you try and pick up as much sunshine as you can. And then in the evening, you've then got a happy kitchen dining space. But it's a bit like some of these houses where you go, I want to walk through the front door, I want to see the staircase, and then I want my dining room. And then you have to say to people, okay, sounds good, but why would you want your dining room there? Your dining room is your evening room.
Correct.
You will spend two evenings.
A handful of days.
We will say you'll have 2 evenings there. You have Christmas Day. You'll have
the odd birthday.
And probably you'll go in there for an argument. It's that sort of room. Whereas actually, dining rooms are evening rooms. So stick that in the worst place where you get the least sunshine. You then can put it so the kitchen's nearby it, so that you can always have your grand doors when you're coming off the hall and see your dining room.
Yes.
But then you want the servery connection or to the kitchen so that you can serve it without having to walk miles, spill it over the floor. You've got that quick connection almost to a utility room sometimes where you can plate up, bring it through.
Yeah.
But it's that thinking, how do I live?
Yes.
How do I use the spaces?
Yes, but I think a lot of developers go wrong, and I'm in a position after nearly 20 years of being a developer, I can say this. A lot of developers go wrong in as much as they don't think about orientation.
Yeah.
They just think about square footage, and they think, I need this, and this is what I'm going to design and deliver. And in the reality of it, when they actually go to sell that house, they haven't spent enough on the finishes, but that's another conversation. But they haven't really thought about the plot, how the plot works, where the sunshine's going to be, and just all of those input. But you only learn that with experience,
and it's a numbers game to start with, though, isn't it? Often they're not looking at it as that. They're looking on a piece of paper and saying, okay, my appraisal shows that 10,000 square foot at this price per square foot in the area, I'm going to make this amount of money. So
it doesn't work like that.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
Things like so many rooms are designed around the size of your TV set.
Yes.
And then you put the TV set up, you go, the sun, it's there. It's
shining straight back.
I can't see what's on TV.
But you hear about these, locally, especially in the estates that we all work in and around Surrey and southwest London. And there are these myths and legends, developers who have sold houses that aren't very big for mega money, and people talk about them as though they are myths and legends. But the reality is, it's because they got it right. They knew that they didn't need to build too big. They found the right plot with the right orientation. They got the right design with the right finishes, and they're achieving big money for it.
Is that combination of the interiors?
It's the quality.
Of course.
You drive around some of these private estates now for houses that we did 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And you can tell the ones where they used the cheap brick,
of course,
cheap stonework, the cheap window manufacturers, because the stonework has gone black. No one's, and that's the thing is, you wouldn't buy a brand new car and not clean it for 15 years, and it's shocking the number of people who don't do the maintenance on their houses.
Who don't look after the stone or the render.
And the problem is, if you've got true Portland or Bath stone. It's solid. It absorbs the dirt less than this reconstituted stuff.
Yeah.
But you've got to maintain it, because if you keep it clean, there's one house I did back in 2012 in Burwood Park, and it looks as good today as it did.
Is that the one that's clad in all natural stone?
No, it's just a very standard red brick classical stone coin, stone portico. But the stonework is still really sharp. And I think an element of it must have been the stone company that we used was really, really good.
Yes.
Because you can get some of the cheaper precast stone companies where it's a bit like a pumice stone.
Yes,
it's quite porous,
and it comes off.
And the problem is, the more you jet wash it, you clean it, the more you open up the pores, the more the dirt comes in.
Yes.
And I've got clients for the moment in St George's Hills where they've gone, I just can't do the stone, so we're actually doing concrete and they're painting it.
Wow.
And it's on a white rendered house. And I said it's cheaper to do it and paint it than it is to use the stonework.
But Iconic now is quite often known as the luxury super prime mansion company. You've achieved that name in the industry.
Or if you talk to my children, Iconic is iconic because we do windows and we do makeup and we do Dad, look, you do makeup now? No, it's just Iconic is iconic, but in its own way, it's not iconic. And it's one of those things. I thought back then, do I go out with Andrew Long architecture and stuff like that? And I thought that sounds a bit dull.
But you're not just a designer of prime and super prime mansions. You do full spectrum property development, and you and me have designed. Most recently, we designed 25 apartments that I then sold on to a national house builder.
I did a 1-bedroom house in Leatherhead about 4 years ago, which is 450 square feet.
Really great.
And I think what it is, it's when you design small houses, you can only design small houses.
Yes.
And you just do your extensions and things off them. But when you're fortunate enough, like myself, to have got into the luxury house market, you're building up to properties like 35,000 square feet where you're having a make-up rooms, a cigar smoking room, or wrapping room. It's
Yeah.
like wrapping not as in
Yeah, I was
music,
gonna say.
but as in presents. You know? It's sort of like going,
Yeah.
first world problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think once you've seen some of the wows that you can put into the big stuff,
Yeah.
you can shrink
Translate
it,
that down.
and you think about storage and spaces
Yes.
and how things work.
Yeah.
So you can design smaller stuff, which people go, oh, it's got the same features. You go,
Yeah.
yeah, because we've been
scale
able to
down.
shrink them down.
Yeah.
But if you just do like small stuff and you stretch it,
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
yeah, and there are developers, mention no names, who did that. They had I call it the 3 Series BMW
Yeah.
of a product,
Yeah.
and they stretched it to try and be
Yeah.
a Maybach.
Yeah.
But what it was a 3 Series BMW that had just got really big.
Yes.
It still didn't have.
Yeah. It
the
wasn't
things
bespoke enough.
No.
It wasn't bespoke. It didn't. People don't put enough thought into
And I
it.
think the thing is, when you do that, you dumb down your product because it loses its exclusivity.
Yeah.
Because people go, oh, it's that again.
Yeah.
And I know some people will say, oh, he's designed another one of those. But what we try and do is every house is unique to the plot.
Yes.
We don't cut and paste that one onto that one onto that one because everything's different.
Of course.
Because different clients want different things.
Of course.
But it's one of those things that, how do I explain it with clients, is as an architect, my job, you come to me and go, Andrew, I want this house, this is what we want. And I go, no. And I put on my Tarka in the architect outfit and go, you can't possibly want that. Actually, that's not my vision as an architect. What you want is my dream.
Yes.
And then the client's looking at this brutalist monty going, oh, I didn't really ask for that, but I'm going, I'm happy.
Yeah.
My job, whether I like it or not, is to say, you want this,
Yes.
I turn it into reality.
Yes.
Along the way, I will point you in the right direction of good ideas. I'm not sure about that. That doesn't work. But if my client comes back to me and says, no, we want that, then that's what my client wants.
Yeah.
It's not for me to say, oh, that's a stupid idea. Where would you do? I can advise that there's a better way of doing it. You could have... He's stuttering on his words. I'm trying to think of an example. But you could it's how you turn their thought into reality.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
And that's the architect's job.
there are a lot of architects who do exactly what you
Yeah.
said. The amount of times I've gone and met with a client and they're like, yeah, we love this bit and this bit. It's like, well, hang on, this was your house. Why is it not exactly what you want?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the architect said we could do this and we should do this. And so all of a sudden, the house they went in is not what they've ended up
Well,
with.
if you think about it, I've designed 700 projects. And people go, what's your favourite house? It's a really strange one. I don't have any particular one which is my favourite. There are elements of houses where I go, I like that bit. That was really cool. We did one years ago called Mirabeau. And I liked the fact it wasn't red brick with stone surrounds.
Yeah.
It had a bit of stonework. It had a double-heighted space, a bit like some of the American ski lodges.
Yeah.
Because actually that one, interestingly enough, it originated from my client's ski trip to the Folie Douche. So there was this wood and stone, which...
I remember the house.
Yeah.
In fact, I liked that house so much.
You copied it.
I like that house so much that you will remember we designed together Audley House on Icklingham Road in Cobham, which you've been to. Features on one of the previous episodes, but we'll show you a photo of that now. And I loved that. It was so different.
But I've done, from Mirabeau, there's about 5 Mirabeaus out there.
Variants.
And I've got one in the Highlands of Scotland, 5,500 square foot, just a standalone in 90 acres with a lake in front of it, which is due planning in the next couple of weeks, having been in planning for 13 months. But saying that, the Scottish planning system actually isn't that bad. It's just that they ask you a lot more questions.
Sure.
And I think that is where we are going with the British system now, is they are going to ask you a lot more questions on day one, which is good and bad. And that probably can send me off into another tangent, because with planning, this is my biggest bugbear, is you design a house. You're then asked to do a huge amount of reports. So you start with your topography, which you need, because you need to know whether...
All of which we cover in our course, but carry on.
Yeah.
This is all good
So,
stuff.
Topography.
Yeah.
You need that. You need your topographical survey because it covers everything.
Yep.
And if you do a topographical survey, please make sure you cover houses that are next door in terms of the footprints,
Yeah.
ridge heights,
Yeah.
windows,
Yeah.
and trees.
Yeah.
Yep,
Because that's really, really useful.
absolutely.
Once you've got that, you can then do your tree survey, which then gives you your root protection areas of where you can build, or which trees that aren't tree protected that need to fall over one night. But I didn't say that. You then have your ecology survey, which is for your bats and things like that. This is where I think we should go back to some of the old systems where your bats can only be done. This bit you may want to edit. I'll come back here. With the ecology, if you haven't got bats, you can submit any time throughout the whole year. If they find presence of bats, or you have a really kind ecologist who uses the word probably, you'll end up having to do 2 reports, the dawn to dusk survey.
Yeah, thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And you can only do those between May to the end of August, when the temperature is, where the bats will come out of hibernation.
Yes.
Problem is, everybody wants it done then. You get a bottleneck.
Yeah.
You then get to August where all the ecologists double their prices and hold you to ransom.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you want a quick turnaround, it's extra.
This is where that should be made a planning condition, because then you could spread out the planning submissions throughout the whole year. Yes, it may take a bit more time at the back end of the project, but you can be doing your working drawings when that's happening and sorting things out.
Yes.
The same with energy reports and all the other bits and pieces.
And the BNG.
Because the thing is, you put your house in, you get it refused, because sometimes clients want bigger than you tell them they should have.
Yep.
You've then spent all this money on that report, that report, that report.
Yep. That are
And
all linked to that one house.
and it's been refused.
Yeah.
So you could have wasted £10,000
Easily.
in abortive reports.
Easily.
Whereas if you can get your house through on day one,
Yes.
you then know that you can do the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get to that point where you're doing your working drawings and you're going, we need to think about the energy. We need to think about
Yes.
what heating systems and what green energies we can use.
Yes.
At that point, as you're designing it, you can then get your conditions signed off, because you're going, actually, under the relevant code, I need to have some solar panels. Do I want to use ground source heat pumps? No, because I like my hot water hot.
Yeah.
What else can I use? Can't use a boiler anymore.
Yeah.
So you then bring in your M&E consultant to actually discuss what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But trying to do them all up front, it's a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah.
And what they need to do is free up the planners so they can do what they need to be doing, which is the planning,
Yeah.
then do those bits afterwards.
Can be conditions.
Because those conditions can almost then be part of building control at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And then you're freeing up resources to do that.
Yeah. Listen, this is all critical advice,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful that you're bringing these things up, because we talk about them every week, and there are so many elements that go into a development site, whether it be one house or some of the multi-unit schemes that you and me have done together, for example. And there are so many elements that go in, and you just got to know what to do, when to do it, how to get it done to achieve your planning consent as quickly as possible, because those costs rack up very, very quickly, as you know, and you're quite often throwing it away. When you get that refusal, a lot of those reports are wasted.
I go back years ago, there was a site I did in Weybridge, and the client bought it. This is going back to when, this is 25 years ago. The client bought it for 1.3 million, which was quite
A
expensive.
lot of money back then.
We got planning for 40 units on
Wow.
it, flats.
Wow.
Overnight, it went from being worth 1.3 million to 6.5.
Fantastic.
So, of course, they flipped it.
Yeah.
They then flipped it onto somebody else who did their due diligence and then realised that it was a really high water table.
Oh.
And they flipped it onto somebody else for 7.5 million. So they did nicely.
Yeah.
But then the guys who built it out went, oh, we can build this cheap. And they cut every corner going, and literally it had a tidal basement parking.
Yeah.
They had problems with everything upstairs because they tried to build what should have been a concrete frame in timber frame.
Oh.
And you're sort of going,
Yeah.
the principle of it
Yeah.
was unbelievable.
Yeah. And
But
it's reduced down and down.
the most interesting thing about it, which has got nothing to do with architecture, was when we had all the watercolours done for the building, we had this guy called Tom Bove, who was an old guy, and he just specialised in doing architectural watercolours. And I went over to see him, and he showed me what we were doing. He said, I didn't used to do this. He said, prior to that, I used to do films and things like that. I went, oh, what films did you do? He went, Star Wars.
Wow.
And he took me up to his loft, and he had the original paintings of the posters that he did for Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
And he said, these will be my children's pensions.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and went, oh my God. That's, he's sort of going, it's like architecture completely went out the window.
Yeah.
It was like, wow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how you can get wowed by certain things.
Yeah.
When you come into someone's house, sometimes it's not the house.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
a
a bit
car
of the
on the
art.
drive or
Yeah.
a piece of artwork on the wall.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I remember doing that, walked into a house and went, wow, I like your painting. It's a Rolf Harris. I don't do that anymore.
But you touched on something a moment ago, which I would like to discuss, which is you and I've brought lots of sites to you over the years where you and I have had the goal of, as you call it, flipping, I call it trading, but trading those sites on. And most recently, we designed 25 apartments in Esher. It does feature on one of our other episodes, which we designed 25 apartments together, and then I sold that to a company called Octagon Developments Limited, and they built them out, and they changed the name to Luna Place. But quite regularly, you and me have worked on sites that I've found where I've always had the end goal of getting that planning consent and selling it straight on. And you're a great guy for that.
I have two sets of developer clients. I have the ones who are more land source, who will get the planning, and then they will send it on or sell it on to almost like hedge fund people who are looking for development opportunities to invest in. And then there's the developers who will build it out until it's finished. So I'm lucky enough to have a real selection of client base. But it's also very interesting where the world's gone. If I go back to when I started doing developer housing, which is about 2003, I would say that then 95% of my work was developer, and 5% was an end user who wanted the odd house. Now it's now probably 75% end user, 25% developer, and that's probably been driven by the likes of myself and other architectural practices. We've put luxury houses everywhere and driven all the land values up like that. So actually, for a speculative developer now, land values are so expensive that you can't flip stuff because by the time you do your land value and you do your build costs, it's
the margin's
almost,
much. So you've got to be really knowledgeable and careful as to what.
I was having a conversation. I started using LinkedIn again recently, and I've done some posts, and I had someone come completely out of area saying, I'd like to develop in Surrey. And I sort of said, well, look at it. When you develop, Surrey, you're paying a huge amount for your land. Your build costs are what your build costs are due to expectations, and your resales are what they are going to be based on the square footage rate in Surrey.
Correct.
You're from Kent. Okay. Why don't you look for sites on private estates in the Kent area where you will be paying less for the land? Your build costs will be down a bit because you can spec things down. Your end values will be down, but I said your profit margins will be exactly the same, but you're still going to make a comfortable profit from doing it if you do it well, rather than everyone goes, I've got to do it in Surrey because we're all going to become millionaires overnight, Rodney, you know? But actually, no, if you have to look at your, almost the area that you have the expertise in. So I wouldn't suddenly go to Simon, do you know something? We should start looking in Manchester. Because to be honest, neither of us in Manchester, and we wouldn't know where to start.
We've always said advise people to do it where they're based or know. Don't have to be based there, but they know because their local knowledge. The amount of times you would know, and if you're not from the area, there's one road which has this ceiling value, and there's another road literally parallel to it, but for whatever reason, is a lot less
you
value.
can get it so wrong.
Yeah, and if you're not from the area, you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, well they sold on that road for 5 million, they sold on this road. You'd assume it's the same unless you know the local area.
But I've always been of the sort of view of stay within the niche that you're good at.
I agree.
So, for example, as an architectural practice of one, even though everyone thinks there's much more in Iconic, I'm a bit like a hairdressing salon. So I'm a name with me doing all the design. So when I design for clients, it's only me that you deal with. So I'm not giving it to somebody else in the company.
Yes.
I like to be involved.
Yeah, you're hands-on.
And I also like that sort of banter like you can have with a client and fun.
Yeah.
When it comes to the working drawing stage, I have 2 or 3 working drawings companies that just do working drawings that I will go out to because they're a bunch of technical geeks who just love putting things together. But that's what you want when you want your house. You want someone who's taken his arty-farty hat off, but you want someone who's then put his technical hat on,
absolutely.
who knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
I'd rather stick within my niche rather than trying to be a jack of all trades and get it wrong.
Yeah.
And my experience from more the developer side and also working with project managers and stuff, they prefer that because as a team you've got more expertise to answer more questions.
Well, I outsource everything as well. And in fact, on everything you and I have done together over the last 15, 20 years, you and I have focused on the design. And once we've got that design nailed and we've got the planning consent, I then go off and get the technical working drawings done by someone else. And just to be clear for those that don't know, just in case, the technical working drawings that Andrew's talking about are what the builder, the contractor needs to be able to build that development. Andrew's a fantastic artist, a fantastic architect, but to be able to take a planning drawing and then convert that into something that a builder can use to technically construct from, that's a completely different type of architecture skill. So again, Andrew's the architect. He'll design those multi-unit schemes. He designs those one-off big houses and the smaller stuff. Once he's got that planning consent, you then pass those on to technical, what we call technicians, who then convert them into construction drawings.
There's also a word of warning when you do your technical drawings. There's technical drawings that you can build from, and there are building regulation drawings which will tick the box that you can't build from. So if you're designing one of our big super prime mansions, if you go to Dave down the road who works out of his shed, who's done a few kitchen extensions and garage extensions, he won't have the foggiest what to do with these big houses because the level of details that are involved in this are unbelievable.
Absolutely.
You're not designing a house, you're basically designing a hotel.
Yes.
And the level of layers that you have to do with your structural engineer, your civil engineer, your mechanical and electrical, interior designer, landscape designer.
And then all the testing at the back end.
So talk us through, you approached Andy, you've got one plot or two plots?
So this is the one we went to visit. So it's that horrible derelict building on a large plot. I've now got the option agreement for the plot next door, so we've got an acre. So to me, that's gone from being a renovation project to now potentially getting 4. I'm good at renovation jobs, but looking at a plot of land and saying, how do you best position this is not my expertise. So I sent it to Andrew. Andrew's gone, here you go. You can get potentially 4 units if we structure like this.
Okay.
Having never worked for you, so from my side, that's brilliant because it's like, okay, well, you've done that for free. And, it's like, okay, well, perfect.
But it's also the ability with technology now because with Google Earth, it's I can go to site without getting off my arse. And it's great. It's the fact you can drop in, you can go on the road. And Google has changed again in the last couple of... Certain areas have got 3D. And that is so good because you can suddenly see trees that could be there that may have fallen over already. But you can get an idea of the road, the street scene, the character of the area. But also the other one is heights of buildings. There's no point coming to me and saying, look, I want a scheme for 4 houses. They've got to be 2 stories, rooms in the roof. And I'm looking at the houses which are around it.
And they're all bungalows.
They're all 1970s. They're 7.5 metre ridges. Not a chance. You need really to be 3 stories in current day standards. Pushing towards 9 metres. Because there's a load of technical standards, especially in the London area, where in the old days we could get away with 2.4 ceilings. They're now pushing us to 2.55 just to give you a bit more space. That plus modern day structural zones and you needing this more height. So if someone says they're 2.5 stories and they're 8.5 meters, not a chance.
So you give that guidance to developers. So a developer comes to you, they've got a plot of land, they see that there's potential here, you will pick up, and you do it with me, you've done it with me over the last 15 years, you'll look at that plot of land and you'll give a developer like Mike the guidance as to what they're likely to achieve. Maybe if Brandon brings in the...
This is normally where I say, has anyone got a bit of paper that's
we can bring in a whiteboard, and maybe you could show us.
I'll do a doodle.
Yeah. But that's great, because it gives people guidance right from the offset, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's one thing to search for a bit of land, like you think it has potential, but not many people, myself included, can then imagine, other than picking up a house next door and going, right, that's one, that's two.
God.
Someone just like Andrew can go, actually, hang on a minute, if you angle it this way or have an access road coming in at this angle, you've now got an extra unit.
That's impressive.
And the viability and the actual GDP of the site has massively increased.
Well, to be honest, do a bit, use yours as an example, really.
Yeah.
Let me just do
That's a good idea.
1, 2. You got road like that. Then we do, so that's your main road.
Yeah.
Like that. So then you've got houses that were sort of sitting, you got a house there.
These are existing.
House there.
Yeah.
A few trees. Oh, nice one.
Use the green.
Use the green.
Who put these in here?
I think it pulls out the back. There you go.
And by the way, cameras do put on about 10k. So we have a bit of trees around the background. So we have a couple of big ones there and there. What I'll also do is, for the sake of it, put a tree there. And I'll put another tree over there.
Do we know if these are protected trees yet?
For the purpose of this exercise, they are.
Okay.
So that one there's got a nice big girth, and so is that one there. So you've come to me with that site and you say, what can I fit on it?
Yeah.
First thing I would look up is planning policy, density, affordable housing thresholds.
In that
things in that
council.
area.
Yeah.
So for example, based on this plot, say it's more rural, there's no affordable housing requirement because of the number of units we're going to put on here. So there's a house here. You have to look for windows there, there, and there's a starting point.
Why are we looking for windows, Andrew?
Because it's visibility.
Okay.
Visibility displays off the back for privacy.
Okay.
So normally there are rules which are 8 metres.
Yeah.
I'll explain this.
Yeah.
And then 15 metres.
Okay.
If that house was located over here and that moves into our plot,
Yes.
we can't build anything within those zones. Same if we're over there.
So you can't, just for the viewers, you can't build anything that's going to affect the view and privacy of those neighbouring
so if
houses.
you're doing
It's
like if you're doing an extension on a house somewhere, and you've got your visibility displays there, 8 metres, 15 metres, and you say, I want a really big conservatory running off the back, I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
As soon as it crosses that bit there, you can't do it. So you actually have to
Dogleg it.
dogleg it, step it like that.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, you are under the correct guidance for the planners.
Sure.
So that works.
Yeah.
So jumping away from that, you've got this layout here.
Yep.
You're then going, well, if I do 2 houses there, 2 houses there, I could put a road through the middle.
Yeah.
You're trying to look at it in terms of what is the best layout.
Yeah.
There will be a thing called root protection area with trees,
Yep.
which is always what catches people out, especially when it's not on your plot.
And that's when you need to bring in your tree
Horticulturist.
consultant.
Agriculturist.
So, for example, under most circumstances, it's 10 times the diameter of that tree. So if that's a metre, we'd have to go 10 metres. You cannot build within that area.
Yep.
Same with that one, because that may have a lopsided crown. So you have more crown that way, less, but you're still got to do.
And so you cannot build within the root protection area of those trees.
You can build within generally about 20% of it,
Yep.
because you're not trying to kill the roots.
Yep.
But your arboriculturalist will come up with construction methods, whether it's fine dig, hand dug,
Watch and brief type.
Yep.
and also sometimes with garages. If you want to build a garage close to a tree, you can pile it. So you put the garage on,
So
you
it's
pile
not affecting
so
those
the roots
roots.
go under it.
Yep.
So that's fine. you'd then be going, okay, what can we fit across here? So I know I can put one house easily
Yep.
there like that.
Yep.
Some builders would probably build it that drunk, but it should be square. You then go, okay, I want a rear garden, probably going to be these days. You've got your 11 metres.
Yep.
Then you think, oh, I'm going to put another house. Yeah, another one there. Like that.
Yep.
Then you're going to want your access road running through the middle.
Yep.
You've then got to work out what is the best way of getting a number of houses in the rear
Yep.
that suits you. So
Yep.
probably if you're running this back this way, if you're doing back-to-back distances on houses, it's generally sort of 21, 22 metres
Sure.
for overlooking of bedrooms.
Yep.
If you're doing back to a side, you want 16 metres.
Yep.
So based on this, for example, these are conifers. So we're actually going to go in and take all these trees out to
Yep.
give us a bit more space.
Remove those trees.
Yeah.
Provided they're not protected.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what we're hoping is that dimension is then 16 metres to the side. So what we may do, depending on density, actually, I've drawn that completely wrong because I've forgotten that it needs a garden. So
That can be
actually,
the garden there.
so what you're trying to do is we're actually going to do something like that. We'll snake it round and the house will move to there. So that may become a pair of semis,
Yep.
alleyway, and then over here we may put one other house, garden that way.
Yep.
And then what you're going to have to do, you've got 3 units. You need to get some sort of turning here in the
circle.
corner,
Yeah.
because you won't have to get a refuge truck at the back because of the distance, but that's another conversation.
But vehicles need
Yeah.
to be able to leave in
But
first
it's
gear, don't
that
they?
sort of thing is that I know that those houses there are just your standard 2-storey 1970s. We've then got, we put the trees and stuff there. We then do our development and we go, okay, these are going to be of the same height,
Yep.
access road, same height. But sometimes, depending on the local authority, the housing numbers required,
Yeah.
we may be able to push it so that we can have a gable there, take it up, and you get your bulk. You may be able to potentially squeeze a second floor in. But it's very much when you do development, it's that whole street scene, ridge heights. If you find there's some bigger ones further down the road, you're following the street scene. So it's a case of you can use that as a precedent. But a lot of the time when you're doing schemes like this, we tend to do pre-apps. So that a pre-application is, I shall sit down now because I'm getting old. It's better where you put in the idea of your scheme before going for a full planning to run it by the planners. So you're saying, in principle, we've got this site, we've got X number of units. We're going to go for, these are our garden sizes, bedroom units, square footage. You don't need to show floor plans or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the planners will come back going, not a chance. Or they will go, in principle, we think this is a goer.
Yeah.
They will never give you the, definitely you can have it. They will sit on the fence a bit like they always do. But it will give you enough information that as a starter developer, if you've got a site like this, you can actually do your due diligence on your figures. So you know, for example, if this is in a certain area, these are detached houses, these may be 1,800 square foot, 4-bed. The ones at the back probably going to be 1,200 square foot, semi-detached.
Yeah.
You can then work out your land value, your profits and everything like that,
Yeah.
which I would leave to you guys to discuss.
Of course.
But that's sort of how you develop up a site.
Yeah.
So this is great because what you're explaining here is that somebody starting out in land sourcing can come to you very quickly.
Yeah.
You will be able to run what we call a feasibility study to give them enough information to disappear, speak to local estate agents and a contractor.
Use our appraisal document.
Use our appraisal tool to work out what the costs are going to be, what the GDV is going to be, and what your eventual profit margin is.
I have access to digital maps. So you can drop on and I can measure areas and I can say fairly quickly whether it will work. 'Cause the amount of times I've had maps going, I'd like to get 3 houses on there, and you go, what scale did you print this off at? And then you do in reality, you said you had 22, you've got 17.
Of course.
Yeah.
which suddenly kills a unit, which means it doesn't stack up.
So what advice would you give to somebody starting out in getting into property development now, somebody with the rules and regulations, with government policy and local council policy? What advice would you give to someone who wants to get into property development or land trading at this level now?
It's building a relationship with someone who, whether it's an architect or they're a friendly planning consultant,
Yep.
you want to be able to understand, can I actually build anything on this plot?
Yep.
I've had people before, I had one years ago where a client came to me with a plot he bought. He said, I want to get 35 flats on here. We did our due diligence, and it was in Metropolitan Greenbelt. He couldn't put anything on it. He'd bought a plot.
Yeah.
And you have to be very aware of what you can do.
Yes.
And it is things like Greenbelt,
Even settlement boundaries can have a massive impact.
conservation areas,
Yes.
things like that. I look at stuff in Surbiton where people go, I want to do this. And you go, you can't. There's a conservation area. We are quite restricted on what we can and we can't do. So you've literally got to work your way through your list to say, can we, any problems?
Yes.
Once you know you can do something,
Yeah.
then you go, okay, we've got this plot, we've allowed for the trees, we've allowed what number of units can we put on?
Yeah.
And then you can then go, okay, we can get 5 units on it.
Yeah.
5 units, I'll do my figures. So for example, they want X for the land. I know 5 units with planning, they're going to be worth per square foot each.
Yeah.
40% of that is often with planning what the land is worth, 40, 35%.
Yeah.
Or in the stupid times, 50%.
Yeah.
You then can work out whether you're going to make a profit on that because you know the land, the build, the resales.
Yeah.
If your profit margin's less than 15%, you're then
Forget about
sticky bums on a seat, really,
Yeah.
because of market movement and things like that.
Will you allow me to be lazy? And I mean that I mean that with respect, because when I bring land deals to you, I throw it across your desk and I say, Andrew, tell me. I've got a vision for it.
Yeah.
I know that it's, let's say, excuse me, so Luna Place that I sold to Octagon, I knew I wanted apartments on that site. There was no question about it. I can be lazy because I can give you that site and I can throw it across your desk and ask me how many you can get. And that's what we're getting at here today.
But you've already done like your due diligence. So we provide literally a tick box. For anyone we mentor, we go, look, before you even send it to anyone, do your due diligence, work your way through this tick sheet and say, are there TPOs in it? Is it in the flood zone? Is it in the greenbelt? Is it outside the settlement boundary?
But other things
and at
like,
that point,
this is one that hasn't caught many people out in the past. Is there a sodding great gas pipe or something that runs?
Of course.
Because we've had things before where the clients bought it and then they found out there's a huge gas main and it's got 6 metre easement. You can't build near it.
Yes.
So, and you often get this when you buy things through auction. The stuff where you think it's cheap.
there's a reason for it.
The reason it's at auction is because everybody else has looked at it and gone, run! And that's why it's
that's where the option agreement comes in massively, because it de-risks. I mean, pretty much other than some of the auction properties I've bought, most of the stuff we do is an on-option agreement, isn't it? Because it de-risks it for the developer, so they can do that, secure it, and then if everything goes wrong, they can walk away from the deal. They're not putting that money up front for something that's never going to be built out.
Yeah. And I think it's, I mean, there's so many elements that go into before you even speak to someone like Andrew, but at least if you get a trusted, experienced architect on day one to look at the site that you're considering before you've spent any money whatsoever, and Andrew will give you some honest advice as to what you're likely to be able to achieve. You're saving yourself a ton of time and you're saving yourself money as well.
Otherwise, if you buy the wrong site, the amount of abortive money you're going to spend on getting it wrrong.
Absolutely. And I did that in the early days.
I've seen it done many a times where it's this site's going to make me rich. Oh, I forgot about that. And it's just the more time you spend at front end doing your due diligence and getting it right, the more money you will make at the back end.
Absolutely.
And it's a bit like when you design a house, spend a bit more time designing it to get it right rather than I get planning and then we'll redesign it. Then you're into, you've got to do a section 73 to
Additional
go through planning
costs.
again. And all you're doing is just slowing yourself down.
And if you're borrowing money to to get to that point anyway. You're just going to be incurring more costs.
Just know your product.
Yeah.
Know what you're going to sell.
Yeah.
And know that it's going to be that square footage, that number of rooms.
Yeah.
Look at the local vernacular. Can I be a bit pushy and go for something a bit more modern?
Yeah.
Or am I going to go something which is more traditional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something traditional, spend the time and get the detailing right, because there are so many you look at and you go, oh my God, it's like someone's got a bag of details, shaking the bag around and gone, boom.
Yeah.
And you look at it and go, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's simple. And one thing I was told years ago, like old people do, is Chanel's little black dress. Simplicity.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get it right, it will always look good and it will always be timeless.
Yeah.
And you can tell that from architecture. When you look at houses, it's why people like old classical Georgian houses.
Yeah.
They've all got nice proportions.
Yes.
Everything is rectangular. It's not square. Square is for country cottages.
Yes.
And you can tell a developer who's got it wrong. It's like they put a hand on the roof and gone,
Yeah.
and it's all gone fat and disproportionate.
Yes.
And you sort of go, it sort of looks Georgian, but it's not right.
It doesn't know what it,
Yeah.
doesn't know what it is.
Remodelled in
Yeah.
20 years'
And
time.
it's also the other one, and this is talking about refurbishments. If you've got an arts and craft house or something like that, don't suddenly go, do you know something, I want to turn it into a Georgian house. Embrace what it is and make it better.
Yeah.
Don't try and turn it into something it's not, because it will cost you more money and it will look rubbish.
Yeah.
And you can, and by the end of it, you should have knocked it down if you wanted to do that. And that's what catches people out.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm really grateful that you've come on the show today. It's been incredibly informative, and it does exactly what we wanted, because Andrew is explaining to people that right from that very outset to stop avoiding wasting time and money. That if you pick the right person to have a look at your site, whether it be replacing a garage with one house, or let's say replacing one house with 5 or 6 or whatever, Andrew's the guy to go to. You've just got to get the right team.
Yeah, exactly that. It's knowing the right people to go to, rather than trying to do it all yourself and spend the next 12 months getting it wrong. Go to the right people who, whether it's Russ, you can contact and trust to save yourself that time and money getting it right first time.
Yeah.
Or the other old-fashioned thing is gut feeling. It takes time to learn it, but often your gut feeling on something is always right, whether the deal's too good to be true,
Sure.
the architect that you're dealing with is lying,
Yeah.
or the estate agent you're dealing with is lying.
Yeah.
Just double check on stuff, because then you
Double
won't
check.
get burnt.
I agree.
And that is important.
I agree. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on.
That's okay.
I love working with you, have done for a long, long time. If you're not following Andrew, Andrew's company is Iconic. You can find him on Instagram. We're going to be putting some images up that you would have been able to see throughout this episode. Go and follow Andrew. The guy knows what he's talking about. He's absolutely fantastic. He's been around a long time. And thank you very much for coming on.
And you're the first to ever get me in front of a camera.
And it's never going to happen again.
And there's me thinking I was good for radio.
Thanks. Cheers, Andrew.
That's okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.